Right.
All right, I call to order the Inland Wetlands Agency meeting of Mansfield, Connecticut, June 2nd, 2025 at 6:15 PM. Members present are Aho, Corsi, Chandy, Al Fratoni, Katie Fratoni, Wooch, Hodrinsky, and Walters, who are both seated, alternates who are both seated. Right, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, okay. So we have a consent agenda for which are the minutes of April 17th, March 17th.
You have not had very many wetland meetings
We
this
haven't
year.
had many, yeah.
There's been quite a few agent approvals, but not much need to meet, which is
All the way
good.
back to March 17th.
Corsi moves to accept the consent agenda.
Okay, moved by Corsi,
Which will second?
second by Wooch. All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. I can see you guys, even though you can't see us, so. All right, we have a timber harvest.
Correct. So you have a timber harvest on Mansfield City Road. There's no direct impact to the wetlands. And so really it's just they are going to be doing some work in the upland review area, but you are the agency is the one who determines whether or not you have jurisdiction over that or not. And so basically you've always permitted this as of right. And said that because you've defined timber harvesting as agriculture. And so Michael did prepare a motion for you, and it's on your packet, if you can see that. It's on the agenda.
Okay. Someone like to put that forward?
Sure. Which moves to find that the proposed use is an as-of-right activity as defined under section 130A-3 of the Mansfield Inland Wetlands Regulations, and as it does not disturb the natural indigenous character of the wetland or watercourse by removal or deposition of material, alteration or obstruction of water flow, or pollution of the wetland or watercourse, requires no licensing action by the agency.
Moved by Wooch. Second by Al Fratoni. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. And I believe that's all we have on inland wetlands.
That is correct.
Is that our record short meeting?
I don't know.
We might then.
See if you can do that for PZC. No.
So we're adjourned at 6:17. Okay. Should we continue in radio mode?
Let's start in radio mode, and we'll do our best to move you forward.
So we're back in the 20th century
Yeah.
here, radio mode. Call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of Mansfield, Connecticut on June 2nd, 2025 at 6:18 PM. Members present are Aho, Corsi, Chandy, Al Fratoni, Katie Fratoni, Wooch, and alternates Hodrinsky and Walters, who are both seated for absent members. We have a consent agenda, which includes minutes from May 19th and the zoning agent report.
No report this month.
No report, okay. So we just have minutes. Okay, moved by Hodrinsky,
Second by
Second.
Chandy.
second by Chandy. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, passes unanimously. We have a public hearing concerning a modification of approved special use permit for ice cream, I understand. So I call to order the public hearing relating to this topic at 6:18 PM. Members present are Aho, Corsi, Chandy, Al Fratoni, Katie Fratoni, Wooch, and alternates Hodrinsky and Walters. We're both seated. Do we have a notice,
Yes.
public notice to read?
So while Jennifer is reading the public notice, I have put up the guidelines for the public hearing for the public up on the screen. If you could take a look. In the interest of time, we're not going to read these. We're just going to have them up for you to look at.
And they just direct people as to how we're going to run the public hearing. So the following notice was published in the Willimantic Chronicle on May 23rd, 2025 and May 29th, 2025. The Mansfield Planning and Zoning Commission will hold the following public hearing on Monday, June 2nd, 2025 via hybrid meeting to hear comments regarding the following application. 6 p.m. application of Stacy Stern for modification to approve special use permit with associated site plan modifications on property owned by JDT Enterprises LLC and located at 483 Browns Road, assessor parcel ID 27.89.6, PZC file 1292-1. Information on how to participate in the public hearing will be included in the meeting agenda, available at least 48 hours to the public prior to the public hearing in the town's agenda center, www.mansfieldct.gov/agenda center. No information from the public shall be received after the close of the public hearing. Additional information regarding this application is available in the Mansfield Planning Office, AP Beck Building, 4 South Eagleville Road, Mansfield, Connecticut, 06268, or by emailing planzoneDEPT@mansfieldct.org. P. Aho Chair, K. Frattoni Secretary.
Okay, so we'll start with the applicant.
Sure. Do you
And
want
then-
me just to give you a quick overview of the application,
please.
just from my staff memo? So, and then Stacy, if you want to come join us at the table, you're welcome to do that. So Stacy Stearns, who's here, is seeking the following approvals from Planning and Zoning. She's looking to modify her existing special use permit related to commercial agriculture and the associated site plans. So as most of us are all familiar, the site is approximately 46.76 acres. It's located in the RAR 90 zone. And it abuts a 16-acre parcel owned by Joshua's Trust to the east, a residential home, and a 258 agricultural parcel to the west, and a 36-acre residential parcel to the south. Sorry. Currently, there is an existing special permit and associated site plan, and it was approved in 2010 for permanent agricultural retail sales, and it is operated as the Red Barn Creamery since about 2018 or before. It's important to note the statement of use included as part of the approved existing special permit states that many of our products will be grown and produced in our land and other local area fields and greenhouses, and that's consistent with the existing application. So since 2010, there have been additional modifications that the commission has approved. In 2018, the PZC approved modifications to the special permit to allow seasonal hay rides and a corn maze. On September 4th, 2018, the PZC approved a further modification to the special permit for seasonal food trucks, including the sale of food and alcoholic beverages. So right now, the applicant is proposing to sell ice cream using milk sourced from Mountain Dairy, and that's located on property immediately adjacent to the site. And since applying on May 19th, the applicant has scaled back the originally proposed modifications. And essentially, they are requesting just an extension of the hours, extending the hours to 9 p.m. Currently, the approved hours are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. In addition, they're asking for a pickup window on the eastern side of the building, which is the side that is furthest away from the adjacent single family. And in terms of the site plan, they are going to be adding some indoor seating, 15 customer spots. And then in my memo, I did state that they were looking for outdoor seating for 20 customers, but they are now, as of today, requesting outdoor seating for 30 customers. There is already outdoor seating. It's pretty informal, or it has been as it was operating as the Red Barn Creamery. They are going to be retrofitting the existing lighting, but they're going to be making improvements and making all of the lighting dark sky compliant. They are asking for approval to increase the signage by 25%, and that's allowed in the zoning regulations, but it's going to require a separate zoning permit. In addition, they are not required to do this, but the site can park 27 cars. 7 are located in front of the building, and 20 spots are located in the lower lot on the northwest side, away from the single-family residence. Actually, I said it's actually on the northeast side. But they're going to be regrading this kind of overflow parking to improve the functionality. No wetland license is needed. I already talked about the lighting. And the current site plan, it does show an evergreen buffer, but the applicant has agreed to add more evergreen plantings to improve this buffer along the side with the existing single-family home. And then we're just recommending that they meet with our recycling coordinator, just to ensure that how they're disposing of their waste meets the town solid waste regulations. And I think that is it. And Stacy, you may want to come in and tell everyone what I forgot. And if you could just make sure that the light is, that you speak into the mic and the light is green, bright green.
Now it's bright green. All right, so can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
So good evening, my name is Stacy Stearns. Thank you all for hearing our special permit. As Jennifer mentioned, I'm part of Willard J. Stearns and Sons Incorporated, doing business as Mountain Dairy. I'm a member of the 10th generation. And so we've applied to modify our site. I'm always going to get these wrong. The site use and the special use and the site plan permits. We need different names, but I'll get there eventually. So basically what we're looking to do, Mountain Dairy has been producing and processing our own milk for over 250 years. I think you guys are all aware of that. What's happening with the milk industry is that fluid milk consumption is decreasing, whereas your components, your cheese, ice cream, yogurt, pudding, all of that is increasing. So dairy consumption as a whole is increasing, fluid milk consumption is decreasing. For most of our history, we've done purely fluid milk production, produce and process, deliver it to our neighbors, and then communities throughout Connecticut. Basically everything on the eastern side of the river over into Rhode Island and up into Massachusetts. However, you guys all get it with gasoline and everything. We like to keep that core business as close to Mansfield as we can. With our land and everything, we've got right there in that area. For the last 5 years, we've been producing ice cream base mix too, which is a refrigerated product. We don't have freezer space at 50 Stearns Road right now, but that base mix we produce, and then we've been selling it to other ice cream businesses. When the lease on 483 Browns Road came up earlier this year, I might get my timeline slightly off, we started conversations with John Preet about ice cream production for our own farm instead, seeing that as a viable way to continue growing our business and to maintain its economic viability as fluid milk consumption decreases. And then we've got competition from other dairy farms in the state too. So the base mix will still be made at 50 Stearns Road. What we're proposing here, and I know it's not part of your planning and zoning, but I think it helps to have a better idea of what we're doing. What we're proposing is in the back portion of 483 Browns Road, so the annex where the farm store has always been. There will be a small ice cream production area where the hard ice cream will be made. There'll be a viewing window so that people can see the process taking place. And then there'll be a small service area where you can get some ice cream. There'll be a freezer, so if you want to buy small containers to take home, and then some of our milk products as well, because we've been having customers ask for years about buying our milk, and it seemed like a missed opportunity not to put a refrigerator next to a freezer. The pickup window is just to facilitate flow. As I told a couple of members of the Planning and Zoning Commission when we had our site visit for the commission, ice cream is not a product that you linger over, especially in the summer. So we don't expect people to spend a long time there because the ice cream will melt and just make a mess. It's unlike wine, we kind of want them to eat their ice cream and continue on whatever they have planned for that day. And then along with some of the things that we've asked for, specifically the extended hours, that's a seasonal request. We also don't expect anybody to come get ice cream at 8 o'clock at night in December. So, we're just asking for this so that we have some flexibility as we move forward. So our plan and goal is to be respectful to the neighbors and their properties. As was mentioned in the staff overview, that 258-acre agricultural parcel that abuts it is Mountain Dairy. We've got a farm road that can drive straight from our farm onto that property because of our longstanding use with and leases of the land over various owners across the decades. And then basically we are excited about this opportunity to move and grow forward. Happy to answer any questions that commission members have or neighbors, and are looking forward to this next phase for our business and for our farm, and continue serving Mansfield and the communities beyond.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from commission members? Yeah, sir.
The one residential property, how far is that house from you, ballpark?
It's very close. I
Okay.
would have to actually look at a map to
Trying
say,
to figure it out, and I can't quite tell.
Maybe 100 feet,
Okay,
I'm guessing.
it's close.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, you can come back too, and you get the final word. So would anyone in the audience like to speak to this?
When you come up, if you could just please state your name and your address for the record. Thank you. So you just turn.
Oh. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Despina Lucas. I live on 487 Browns Road. I live directly next door to 483 Browns Road. And when I say directly, I mean directly. This is my childhood home. I've lived here for 23 years. I went to the University of Connecticut. This is the only home I've ever known. The neighborhood has always been peaceful, quiet, and safe. Exactly the kind of place where families choose to grow roots, and that's exactly why mine did. I'm here to strongly oppose the proposed changes for Mountain Dairy. These changes would directly and negatively affect my daily lives, my neighbors' daily lives, my family's well-being, and the character of a neighborhood that I and so many others have cherished for a lifetime. And I would like to respond to some of the specific points made in their proposal. First, extended hours of operation, whether they decide that seasonally or not. They claimed in their proposal that later hours would distribute traffic more evenly. What this means is more traffic, more noise, more strangers later into the night, pretty much in my backyard. When the barn was previously operating as the Red Barn Creamery, I experienced constant disruption, car doors slamming, loud conversations, headlights, dogs off leash, and people wandering around at all hours. A lot of times, or one evening in particular, a customer even pointed a long lens camera into the backyard. I could directly see it from my bedroom window. That was a violation of privacy that I will never forget. This may seem like a strong extension or a small extension to them for hours, but to me, it's just a longer intrusion into my home. Another point, their signage modification, it was 25 increase in size. They called this modest, but it sends a loud message to the neighbors. A larger sign isn't for the neighbors to know that it's there, it's to attract more out-of-town traffic. And since the previous Red Barn business has closed, speeding and traffic on Browns Road has dropped dramatically. I immediately felt safer walking my dogs, walking around in my old neighborhood again, or walking around in my own neighborhood again. And that sense of safety matters to our neighbors and to me, and that is not something that should be sacrificed for more profit. One other point I would like to make about the lighting, whether it's dark sky compliant. Right now, there's basically no lighting at night. It's beautiful. I think even shielded lighting would change the rural peaceful feel of Browns Road. And when I look out the window, I see a beautiful sky full of stars and a quiet peace. And it's a comfort that's almost hard to put into words. And I feel like that will be replaced with artificial light spilling into our home, our backyard, and our neighborhood. And we shouldn't lose that just so a business can stay open later and operate in a residential area. These are not simple updates, they're commercial expansions that will forever change how this property in our neighborhood feels. I have the fondest memories of growing up here, safely playing in our yard, walking down the street and feeling at home. If this proposal passes, I fear future families and children will be robbed of the beautiful experience that I had. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
It's coming from a child that grew up there. Okay, my name is Gus Lucas. I just want to bring some facts onto this property that is next to mine. So 483 Browns Road was the original Martin Farm. I don't know if you guys know that or not. If you pull the deed and you go back to when Brian Perro bought it, you'll see the covenant that's in the deed that shows that this was preserved land and it was only supposed to be meant for agricultural use. What we have here today, especially by asking for inside seating and even outdoor seating, is a full-blown restaurant. And if you ask me how I know that, I own one. So when you talk about a restaurant, it'd be no different than me coming to you in front of this board and saying I want to turn my residence in a residential zone into a restaurant. I don't think you guys would agree. But I tell you what, my house is right on top of a hill. It'd make a great steakhouse or something, I'm sure. But but the other thing I wanted to say is today I spoke to the state this morning. And situations like this, when the development rights are sold to the state is supposed to be notified first of any changes. And I also brought up the point, and I brought the pictures here of when there was an alcohol truck there serving on the property. And the gentleman from the state said that is an absolute no-no. And I don't know how the town even passed that, to be honest with you guys. There's supposed to be no food trucks or any kind of alcohol on the property. So I think that sometimes we make decisions and not knowing what the true regulations are on these kind of properties. The other thing I want to say is, as a residential zone, I don't believe that we should have this kind of business in a residential zone. And if I really wanted to have a restaurant next to my residential house, I would have just bought a house in the city next to a restaurant. You know, you don't buy a house in the middle of farmland that is preserved to have pretty much a restaurant open next to you. And this is more commercial than it is farm use. The other thing I wanted to say is that I have counted 80 to 120 cars a day, more so on traffic, when it was open. And you say, well, how'd you do that? Well, I have cameras, and I sat there and literally watched the footage and counted by hand. It was 80 to 120 cars a day, especially on the weekends, that would come and go in and out of that driveway, right? Once again, I'm reminding this board that this is a residential area, and this should not be happening. When you're talking about that kind of traffic on a residential road that is also deemed scenic, that shouldn't be happening in a residential zone. I don't think that anybody in a residential area would want this next to them. And I agree. You know what? I love Mountain Dairy. They've been around for hundreds of years. I'd want to see them stay around for another couple hundred years. But I just don't think this is the right fit in this building next to my residential home. The other thing is when my daughter, talks about the photo lens, taking pictures of her, and she's right in her bedroom, or, we didn't have proof the guy took pictures of her, but, she's a pretty young lady. She can go out in her backyard, and you never know who's back there, right? We used to be able to let our dogs out there. We don't anymore. We have to walk outside with our dogs because we don't know. We had a Maltese stolen, so our privacy and our safe, like the safety that we thought we had at one point had changed ever since they made these changes next door. So it's not something that I appreciate anyways, my kids having to worry about who's taking pictures or what they're taking pictures of. And another story is, and this is a true story, there was an older gentleman, had ice cream or whatever next door, he was eating something next door, and I was mowing my lawn one day. So he literally came up and started yelling at me and told me to stop mowing the lawn because it was making too much noise. So, you know, this is where I say residential and commercial don't mix, and they never have. But I will say that, you know, my daughter's emotions and what you saw here is real. She's not making this up. This is something that she worries about, and we've been there for 25 years, so it's not like we just moved in yesterday. So we know the difference between something not being there and something being there. So we just want to say that we're not for this, especially if you're adding tables, and this is a full-blown restaurant, and it should not be approved in a residential zone. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
What are the rules on the selling development rights?
So that's something that the state manages, but we do have 2 letters in the file stating that the state did review their applications and they did review the modification. I can't speak directly to the food trucks, but we do have documentation that they did look at that and it was approved.
Okay,
This application or previous ones?
Previous applications, we did not send this to the state because really it's the same use. It's just extending their hours of operation, and the uses are so minor that we did not send them. But if you were to approve this, you could condition this on making sure that the state, a letter saying that this is consistent with basically they have an agricultural easement on their property. So you could condition the approval on that.
anyone else like to speak? That's a good question. So normally, so we're taking comments from the public. You can ask questions. The applicant can answer the questions. We can research the question if we need to. Why don't you come up and say what you'd like to say?
There we go. My name is Annie Bright.
Okay, good.
I live at 422 Browns Road. And I liked having Red Barn Creamery when it was there. And I just wanted to ask some questions about what the new Red Barn Creamery is going to look like. I am not an abutting neighbor, but I am a neighbor. Someone forwarded me the letter so I could see the letter that was sent to the neighbors. And I just wonder what other retail is going to happen in there, what other things are going to be sold. I know that they want to make this creamery and this ice cream. Will that involve transporting things? Like, are big trucks going to be coming down the road and transporting this creamery? I think she answered that. I think she said that none of that will be done there, but I don't know because she said there's going to be a viewing and a place where people are going to be able to see. So how is that going to impact that, you know, the busyness on our road? And the signage, I mean, Red Barn Creamery is very popular without a sign before. So do we really need a big sign? Does that coincide with, how does that work with the scenic road? Do they have to have a special permit for that? So those are just a few of the questions that I have.
Okay, thank you. What about the sign? Do we we have guidance on how big signs can be, right?
So yes, so that 25% increase is permitted by the zoning, within your zoning regulations by a separate zoning permit. And I believe Jillian is our sign expert, so she's going to pull it directly from the regulations.
We're working on this one. While we're waiting for that one, I believe what's being sold is ice cream and fluid milk, if I understood it correctly. Only ice cream and fluid milk is what's going to be sold.
We will keep, we'll keep a list of these questions, and then the applicant can. Yeah, you can either come, you can address all of it, or one at a time. Yeah, it's fine. Since we are looking up the signage regulations.
Okay, do you want to just do the signage and the trucks, what's being sold, just Mrs. Rhodes' questions, Ellie's questions, or?
Yeah, why don't you start with Ellie's questions in terms of the exterior changes and the truck traffic?
Yes.
And then we can look at the signage per the regulations.
Yes, so what we're going to be selling is ice cream and milk products. With John's business across the street with the greenhouses, Agbotic, the Good Healthy products, eventually we could be selling some of those fresh greens that are produced across the street in the farm store. But the original plan, the initial plan is just to have milk and ice cream there. Obviously, it's a small retail space. I think at least the neighbors have been there. I don't know if all of you have been in there, but it's 2,300 square feet. We're taking part of that for the production area. The viewing window will be about the size, a little bit larger than one of these, sorry people on the screen, you can't see me. It'll be about the size of one of these TVs that's in front of here. So we're looking at maybe like 4 feet long by 3 or 4 feet tall window into that production area. Because it's dairy processing, there's really strict food safety regulations. We have to work with both the Department of Agriculture, we have inspectors for those, and the Department of Consumer Protection for both of those. We've already got relationships with those inspectors from both agencies because obviously we're working with them regularly at 50 Stearns Road. So that viewing window is just so that people can see ice cream production, but they're not going to be allowed into that plant for food safety reasons. The next one was the traffic and the trucks. So we need to send refrigerated dairy or ice cream mix over there. So it's a basic dairy product. And I feel like I should be talking to her because they were her questions. So sorry, I'm not sure who to look at, but I guess it's you guys.
You have to talk to me.
But they're refrigerated products that need to come in. Right now we're putting them into like these 5-gallon bags, similar to what we do for the elementary school. So our milk is in Mansfield's elementary school. It's in their cow, the big silver machine. It's a 5-gallon refrigerated bag. So we need to send those over. Again, food safety, it has to come over across the street in a refrigerated truck. We have the small Sprinter vans that are refrigerated that we use for home delivery. So our plan is to send a Sprinter van over with the product needed. We don't have a lot of storage at 483. We don't need a lot of storage at 483 because we have the processing plant there. It wasn't a question, but if it was a question, why aren't we doing this in 50 Stearns Road, the ice cream production? So what we've run into with our current processing plant is when we started bottling milk in 1871, that plant was perfect and it was a great size. But over the years, as things expand and we're not putting milk in cans anymore, we're bottling, we need to get traffic in there. We need employees in there. We need the different equipment. We don't have a lot of room in our processing plant at 50 Stearns Road, and we don't have space to add freezers. So that's why this was a really good opportunity for us. We worked with a consulting company from Maryland a few years ago. We had looked at a plan for building out our processing plant. It's going to be incredibly expensive, and dairy farming as a business but there's only so many things that you can do at once. That was part of our process. The signage, so
We're looking up the signage.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the regs allow for one 16 square foot sign related to agricultural uses. So part of the request in the application is to go 25% larger than 16 square.
Okay.
that's 4x4 plus 25% for me who has to say that out loud.
So is there a way to visually disconnect your building from the neighbor through pine trees or something so people can't look into their house?
yeah, we talked about that. And, you know, we live in the neighborhood too. And I understand Ms. Lucas's concerns. I lived on our main farm for a lot of years before I bought my current property around the corner. And I used to joke that I was the farm's security guard. So I totally understand what she's talking about. There were more nights than not, and Les lives on the farm now. And I know Ellen's had similar issues with people parking in our parking lot at all hours of the night. And when she was a nurse going out in the middle of the night because she had to be at the hospital for a 3 a.m. shift or whatever, not always comfortable. So we understand and respect that perspective because we have the same issues around the corner on Stearns Road. You know, I go out late at night on Mansfield City Road to do the late feed for my horses, and I need to get across the street. And it's not the Mansfield that I grew up in either. And I think we'd all liked it to still be the same Mansfield. I've got a 4-year-old nephew and a 2-year-old niece, and I sometimes wonder what we've signed them up for. You know, I don't want them crossing the street to go from my house to my grandmother's house or their grandmother's house, my mother's house. Heaven forbid they walk down the Mansfield City Road from their house to our houses. Like we used to do that as a kid, and I can't do that anymore, and I can't let my niece and nephew do that. So I understand and respect that, and we talked about it as a project team. We're completely willing to put the evergreens up, and we want to we'll put in signage. We want people to be respectful of this property. We want them to be respectful of our property over on Stearns Road. So we're willing to work on making it comfortable for everybody to be there.
Yep. Okay.
You're adding fluid milk and ice cream. Do you really need 30 outdoor seats and 15 more additional in seats? I think that's what's scaring the neighbors into thinking maybe this is more of a restaurant environment than just, you know, drop by, have a cone and leave.
So we'd had a really long conversation about that because we weren't sure we did either. And then my brother, father of those 2 little people I'm afraid to send across the street, has another one coming. And he said, all right, so I have a family of 5. And if my buddies and I both come over here and have ice cream, and they have families of 5 too, you've got 15 people, right, with those 3 families with 3 kids each. And so that's where we were looking at, you know, yes, that may be a 2-year-old person in that seat, but she's not going to share with her brother. So we were looking at chairs that way, and for, you know, people not sitting on top of each other. So kind of that guest experience that way too. Again, it's ice cream. We're not expecting them to spend a long time there. But just having enough space so that they don't get there and feel like everybody's sitting on top of each other.
Are you expecting a lot more traffic?
I don't think so, but we have limited parking, so it's we're not going to be able to allow a lot. This is a small subset of a larger project with our fluid milk, our retail sales, our wholesale sales. You know, we want to be able to serve the community, but the fluid milk is still the driver of our business. It needs to be the driver of our business.
Thank you.
What happens to the previous special permits? Does this overrule those? Does this get added on to them?
This is just so I think it's important to understand what they're already approved for,
Right,
and those uses really run with the land. So they are approved for let's see, well, it's called basically commercial agriculture. And so permanent agricultural retail sales. And they're with products that are grown and produced on the land and in local area fields. And then 2 modifications were made, one in 2000, both in 2018. And so they were allowed to have seasonal hay rides and a corn maze. And then they were allowed to have seasonal food trucks, including the sale of food and alcohol beverages. So the business model is, my understanding is that it is changing to just include ice cream sales, what you had discussed. But with that, unless they abandon that special permit, they would be allowed to do that. So the 2 things they're asking for is just to, they're doing essentially the same business model, except for they're asking to stay open till 9, and then and adding a pickup window, and then they're asking for indoor and outdoor seating. My understanding, and Stacy, correct me if I'm wrong, the lighting that you have there now, you are not adding any more. You are just making improvements so that they are shielded lighting, dark sky compliant. So no, whatever is there, there will be no additional lighting.
Yeah, so the problems we see with the lighting, the reasons we want to change the lighting, no additional lighting. But for example, there's one light in the parking area that points into the neighbors across the street house. So we wanted to definitely shade that down. The lighting that exists on the back patio that the adjacent neighbor would be able to see, those are right now bare bulbs. So, you know, we want to just make improvements to those structures, that lighting, so that it's more neighbor friendly for everyone.
Does the back patio, is that next to the abutters? Does that abut the abutters?
Yes, yeah, so that's along,
Okay,
the 2 property lines run parallel to each other.
thank you.
Katie has her hand up.
Yes, Katie.
I had a question on the times that you want to stay open to. Why do you feel that you have to stay open until 9? I heard you in your talk say that you can't imagine people eating ice cream at 8 o'clock at night.
In December.
Could that
In
be
December.
brought back to 8?
In December.
Right.
Yeah, so that is for seasonal. So maybe from April to September, it really depends on the weather when it would be open until 9. But we're looking at an April to September window. The rest of the year, it's, again, people don't generally eat ice cream at 8 o'clock at night in December unless, you know, they're an ice cream aficionado or they're in a really warm location, probably not Mansfield, Connecticut. So we are asking for those extended hours because of the way the modification permit was laid out. We just put it in as a blanket request.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah. Binu.
Continuing with the time question, would 8 be sufficient instead of 9? Seems like 8 may be more in line with it being in a residential area.
We can discuss that. I think we had talked about it as a team and thought 8 might be a reasonable closing time. However, for staff cleanup and everything else, we can, you know, there's still going to be people in there a little bit later. If you look at, so we looked at the other ice cream businesses in the area. You've got the Yukon Dairy Bar, the Farmer's Cow Cafe when they're back up and running, and some of the other ones. We like it in Abington. Most dairy farms or dairy ice cream businesses that are also dairy farms are open until 9 p.m. Collins Creamery in Enfield, again, another one that's up in a residential area on Powder Mill Road in Enfield. They're good family friends. Tull Meadow, a couple others we've got. So we were just looking at what everybody else that's a dairy farm and also ice cream production and what's working for them. hours-wise.
Thank you.
When does the sunset in June? I wonder if the closing time could be somehow correlated with sunset.
So it's different every day.
Yeah.
The peak is going to be June 19th. We will need a more consistent,
Right.
and more consistent for,
Yeah, hard to advertise. that.
otherwise I'm going to need a much bigger sign with
Yeah, you're right.
a changing digital sign, and we definitely don't want a digital sign.
Yeah, we need to agree on an actual time.
Yeah, your peak is in June, and a couple years ago, I probably would have been able to tell you like what, but I've kind of gotten out of my my sunrise, sunset times.
Any oth-
But so the hearing has kind of moved to, we haven't heard from all members of the public,
yes.
but so I do
Yeah.
think,
Let's hear from anyone else who would like to speak. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
you need to speak into the mic and say your, just so that we can get you for the record. But
Turn the mic on, state your name and address.
Scott Rhodes, 422 Browns Road.
Okay.
I feel honored to live in an area right where Mountain Dairy is. Always felt very good about that. When I wish Stacy and John and Leslie very good luck and hope this happens. I'm not convinced that this is the right location. I do remember that when Agbotic first had an application, in the first paragraph, it said it's not on a scenic road, it's not in a historic district. Well, I just want you to be conscious of the fact that it is now a historic, a scenic road, but more important than that, I've done much research. It's much more historic. There are some things that are very good about Browns Road in that 1 mile area that is historic. And I won't go into details, but there's some good stuff. I would like to say that, well, we know that there was a mulberry farm there before it was a dairy farm. And I just would like to have you remember that it is a residential area and the people that live there are concerned about this. If that happens, and this will be a more successful business than the Red Barn Creamery, so the traffic will increase. Now, if that happens, and then Agbotic happens, now we're not talking about increase in traffic. We're talking about multiple increases in traffic that are more than we can imagine. And then there will be an application to sell much more than ice cream. The Stearns have much land, and I hope this happens for them. And there may be some other areas where this could happen for them. So I see two sides of the story. I wouldn't mind having an ice cream place there, but we heard tonight some concerns, and it's good to have those concerns because you're letting us have those concerns and you're hearing them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Green light's still on. I don't even have to push it. Thank you, Scott. Hi, I'm Judith Lovedell, 542 Browns Road, a very short walking distance to what was the old Barn Creamery, although I'm not an abutting neighbor, and I certainly would share the concerns that have already been shared if I probably were in a closer proximity and precautions weren't taken to minimize the impacts. I've been involved in agriculture in one way or another for over 72 years. I grew up on a dairy farm. And I'm all too familiar with the difficulties that farm owners have as the land nearby is bought up and developers and residential homes get built in very close proximity to those existing lands. I also recognize the unique nature and struggle that the farmers here in New England have dealt with our small, rocky farmlands. And I'm also very aware of the marketing difficulties in making a reasonable profit for these dairy farms to continue. We've lost the vast majority of dairy farms in the state. And I feel blessed that we've been able to maintain Stearns Dairy, Mountain Dairy. I believe that the history and demonstrated cooperation from the folks running Mountain Dairy, and I think that's a vital asset. I think we're extremely fortunate that this acreage was preserved and that we have this ease and opportunity to buy local products when we see so much of the rest of the country being devastated by floods and fires. I feel blessed that we have this opportunity in our neighborhood. I appreciate the cooperation that much of our neighborhood has experienced with the Stearns and Mountain Dairy to maintain and respect the critical right to farm, as well as the rural scenic neighborhood, keeping those both intact. I think we've been very respectful of each other. And quite frankly, I don't think it's just because I grew up on a farm, but when I get behind the honey wagon and it takes me 5 minutes longer to get, well, it takes me 5 minutes longer to get somewhere. So I think there's been good cooperation and not a lot of ruffling of feathers over that. We also see that there's been a dilapidation of so many of our New England barns, and it's really pleasing to me to see that this structure could be enhanced, maintained, and even improved to ensure the historic continuation, longevity, and functionality of this existing structure. There are many other barns in that area that are fallen to rambles and not being used for productive agricultural means. And I think from the information I've read, I feel hopeful that the Stearns and Mr. Preet have listened very carefully to the neighbors and their past concerns and taken considerations with very thoughtfully and a very thoughtful planning of what used to be the Old Red Barn Creamery. And I certainly think that if new issues arise, we have the opportunities to make our complaints. If security is an issue, well, maybe we need law enforcement in a parking lot. We certainly have problems with traffic and speeding on that road and have had to register our complaints, related to that. So in opposition to many, I hope that the future of this operation is prosperous and remains right-sized. And I think if there were variations to expand, that they would again have to come before the zoning board, and we would again have an opportunity to express our concerns. There are processes to do that. And as a last note, I've worked with Stacy Stearns on the agricultural committee here in town, and I have an immense respect for her skills and knowledge. And I feel very strongly that if any issues do arise, they would be addressed in a professional and thoughtful manner. There needs to be continued communication. If there's a problem, if I have a problem, Stacy's going to hear from me, as will Mr. Preet. So those are my concluding, I guess, remarks. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to speak? No.
There's someone on the phone that may like to speak.
I actually think that's John DeVivo. Oh,
John's,
okay.
Should see a green light.
If there's someone on the line with an 860 area code, and if you would like to speak, please let us know somehow, and we will have you speak after this gentleman speaks right now.
Am I on? Okay.
You're on.
I didn't come prepared to speak at all. Things like this make
We
me
have your name
nervous.
and address, please.
What's that?
Your name and address,
My name is
please.
Tom Hebert.
Thank
My
you.
wife and I, Margaret Hebert, live at 447 Browns Road. It's the old Dorothy Goodman house. So I'm not as close as the Lucases at all. The Lucases are practically kissing this property. I'm on the other side, but all I wanted to say really was that, and I'm not going to camouflage everything. Everybody's being very nice. I love Stearns. I worked with the Stearns when I was a substitute teacher at E.O. Smith. I buy nothing but Stearns milk. I just say that I mean, we hear people talking from where I am. I'm farther away. I don't know the footage of it all, but we could hear people. One of the lights is aiming right at us, so we could see that. I think the bottom line is going to bring a lot of traffic. There's no question about that. Going to bring more people, no question about that. Going to have added lights, whether you say they're going to be new lights or not. They're going to be added lights. It's going to change the night sky. Additional parking. It's going to be a lot of additional parking. It's going to, and the bottom line is that it's going to change the whole environment, period. I mean, we bought this place 5 years ago. I was very quiet. I owned an old firehouse in Willimantic that I renovated. We lived there 40 years. Big difference between Willimantic boom boxes and drunken students to this area here. This is one of the most beautiful roads I've ever experienced. Love the neighbors, love the quietness, love the environment. You know, so this is going to be a change. It's going to be a change. All that quietness and everything, and all that amount of traffic is going to change. I'm opposed to it.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Okay, so if there's
I don't know if you would like to give the Stearns
Yeah.
any opportunity to rebut anything, if they have anything else to add.
yeah, would you like to add anything, Stacy?
I think as several of the neighbors said, I think this is a really good forum to hear their concerns, and we understand their concerns and want to address them. One of the reasons that Mountain Dairy is successful, as Mr. Hebert and others have said, is because they buy our milk and they buy our products, and we want to be an integral part of the community, and we want to be a valued member of the community. So we want to address their concerns and find a solution that's going to work for us and help our business remain viable, but also not ruin their quality of life. So we're very willing to do what we can to make this a viable operation and also a good neighbor for them and an important part of their future memories and their future family events or activities with friends as well. So, and we're happy to, if anyone else, commission members have questions, we can reply to those as well. But this is a slight modification to an existing permit. So we are hopeful that we can move forward with this project and have it be a valued member of the community as our operations on 50 Stearns Road are.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a quick question for the staff, Jennifer et al. Can you just remind me how it works if we wanted to make sure that the landscaping or whatever it would be that divides the property lines is set up in a way that does what we're hoping it would set out to accomplish if we were to approve it?
So in my staff memo, that they do have a current site plan that is in your packet. It does show an evergreen buffer along the boundary line that's existing. But the applicant has agreed to add even more evergreen plantings to improve the buffer. And I had recommended this adding this as a condition of approval. And the way you could do that is they could work with staff to amend that landscaping plan. You could be more specific about the types of trees in a conditional approval, or you could ask them to come back to the full commission with their landscaping plan for approval. There's a lot of ways to do that.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
How is that, going back to the hours of operation, do you need to huddle up with your team again before you would discuss any changes into your proposal for hours?
So I mean, there's 3 of us here, and I think the other team member sent us as proxies. So I think we're okay moving forward with how the commission wants to move forward. You know, we've discussed it. We meet weekly. They all know we're here tonight, so.
Am I allowed to ask if she's discussed this with the abutters? To come up with a consensus for an hour? That might work.
No.
No,
No, I
that,
can't ask that.
no,
Okay.
I mean, right,
you
we,
could-
I mean, that's not part of the public hearing. I mean, you as the commission will make the ultimate decision, and you can condition things like hours. You can condition things like landscaping. You can condition things like fencing, or fencing the outdoor seating area. Things like that, you absolutely could do as conditions.
I just think that additional fencing and tree barriers just kind of ruin the character of the area too.
We're not able to hear.
Oh, Craig, I think your mic's off.
I don't think that adding fences around that and more trees really contributes to the atmosphere of having a Browns Road. I just like the way it is all open and being able to see everything.
I think they were talking just on that line with the single family residents, beefing up that additional, the existing buffer.
So before we get into the merits of the application, we do have a gentleman on the phone who Mr. Lucas has informed us would like to speak. So this is your chance. Please unmute yourself.
And that was a good reminder. We can't discuss the merits of the application, but you can discuss it when the public hearing is closed. So sometimes it's a slippery slope when it's a smaller application like this. Banu has a question while we're waiting for.
Yes, Binu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So mostly a question for Jen. So the request is for extending the hours of operation to 9 p.m. So if we were, as a commission, to decide a different time, would we need to deny the application, or are we okay to?
So we're kind of getting into the merits of the application. However, in the past, I will say you have conditioned hours, and they're asking for 9. You can condition an approval.
Okay, and what about how long the permit goes for? Can we do a smaller time period, see how it works, and then ask them to come back? Is that an option?
That is something I would need to look into, but once we get to that point, and if we have volunteers to write different types of motions, we could do that and you could make that decision on the 16th when you would vote on this.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
You mentioned other food products. Are you talking farm-grown products you'd be selling, like a vegetable stand and that kind of thing?
Yes, it would
Not
only,
prepared foods.
not prepared foods, only agricultural products grown on our farm or the adjacent agbotic operation. What we're looking at is purely farm products. So Mountain Dairy, you may not be familiar with this, but we are one of 40 producer, we're one of 40 producer handlers in the country. So the way we operate is under a strict regulation on how much of that product. So we really align with that in producing and selling our own products. And we'd want to do that same thing at this property. And then going back, so if that answers your question, yes, ice cream, dairy products, local vegetables grown at the adjacent farm property. And then going back to the lighting and hours, we did look up, because all of our smartphones apparently have this now. Sunset tonight is at 8:51 p.m. and the solstice is July 21st. So we're going to be at 9 p.m. by the time we get to June 21st. So by the time we get to
Okay.
solstice, will be 9 p.m. is sunset.
Have we been able to get our phone-in caller?
I said to Mr. Lucas that perhaps he could put him on speakerphone and at the mic.
Awesome. Is it working?
Yes, we can hear you.
If you could just state your name and your address.
I would like to introduce myself to the council yet again. My name is Antonio Lucas. I live at 487 Browns Road. I have lived here my whole entire life. And again, not to make this about the past, I'm making this about the future, but I have lived here my whole entire life. And I have had absolutely a wonderful experience with Browns Road. I love my neighbors. It's an amazing place. And this obviously is a change that is not coming. I'm on vacation. I got this notice whatever date it is. I believe it was 10, 12 days. Everything was in the time period, but this whole thing was thrown at me. With that being once said again, ever since this property was purchased, this has now become a thing of what's going to be there, where it's going to go. And typically, this specific case scenario, we're talking about things such as the things in the past that I've gone through this already with in the past. We've been in the same exact meeting, and it seems to me like now we want to extend hours, all of these things that we have not done. Yes, I know it is Mountain Dairy. Yes, I know this is not the same Mansfield, but that still doesn't justify the fact that this doesn't need to happen right there. That is my background. And once again, we're talking about the buffer. That buffer, where there's no happy medium. If you go look at the fence that is in my yard that is falling down, that was mandated. And that previous owner was supposed to keep up with it. It has not been kept up with, which once again, I didn't even want to bring that up, but I'm just talking about how it's always empty promises and we end up here, whether it's the same owner, different owner. I think that we should respect the original uses of what this is. And yes, I know that Mountain Dairy has been around for hundreds of years, but the whole local business thing does not work with me because that's who's going in right now. But let's say when their lease is up, if the owner of the farm decides that he wants to do the same thing, it's no different. It's the same use. And we have already, believe, added a window before. So now we're adding another window. So I would just like the council to really just hear me out and really look into this because it's not really just a decision. This is a decision that is going to be impacting in the future. It is small changes for now, but there will be big changes coming. I already feel it. So thank you for your time. And I don't have any questions. I just wanted to see those couple of things, but thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And that worked surprisingly well with the phone and the
It
microphone.
did work pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. Bye.
Bye.
I do want to add a couple things now that I'm up here, though.
Sure.
There is a barn on the other side of this property that is further away from most houses and not right next door to mine. And it's bigger, probably be more useful and a lot more parking and everything else, and they wouldn't have to change a thing. When you talk about buffers and you're saying you don't want to change Browns Road, I hate to say it, but my house is the view on Browns Road. I'm on top of the hill, right? I have the view, and the people come to the barn and they cross into my yard and they try to take pictures and everything else. They pull in my driveway, they do all that. And yes, Stacy, I go through the same thing that you do over at your property. But to also round back to what Stacy said, she doesn't want her nephews or her nieces walking across the street, Mansfield City. Now just imagine if I have grandkids or even my kids walking the dog with an extra 80 to 120 customers right next door to my house. So once again, you know, it's a residential area. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you. It's also an agricultural area.
Commercial ice cream.
So, is there any, oh, Stacy, okay, it turned on, okay. So if there isn't a reason to keep this open, we can close the public hearing.
Can we put the diagram up and really talk through where things are? Is
In
that
the
okay?
public hearing
Yes.
or in the public meeting so that Stacy can add, or because we can't talk about the merit of the
No, I just
application?
wanted, I'm not
Sure.
quite clear on
Yep.
where things are
So can I make
from
a
the map that we
Can I-
got.
Can I make a suggestion? Since we are having a little bit of technical difficulties and we're not sure how the share is going to go, can we take like a 5-minute break
Sure.
so we can try to get the screen share?
Okay. Okay, so we'll take a 5-minute break, be back at 7:30. The people online can't see this, right?
Can you, but can you see the aerial photo? We're right now sharing the aerial photo. Yes,
We
you can see it.
the aerial photo.
Great. Okay.
Oh, okay,
That's
good.
wonderful.
Yeah, I'm envious, John and Bino, you're eating, we can't eat. Okay, so now we have a map, which will help show you the distance between the house and the barn.
And you can see the existing buffer needs. It's a bit sparse. Yep.
So I guess I'm wondering where the outdoor seating would be. So maybe Stacy could come and talk through the change in parking.
There is no change in parking.
Okay, no change in parking.
Do you want to run the mouse, and that way you can kind of.
The first time I ever used Google Meet, I went to unmute myself and I left the meeting, so we'll try. All right, there it is. Okay, so yes, this modification is for hours only, and then the seating. So currently, cars have driven down here and parked over in here. We are going to block this off and not allow cars down there. So we said no changes to the existing parking, but this technically wasn't part of parking. It's a little, people have parked there. So we're just going to block it off and make it a kid-friendly zone, a pedestrian-friendly zone. So there will be the pickup window here. So there'll probably be a little bit of a line right there. You know, you get a couple people waiting in line for their ice cream. Right over, so right now, there's a bench at the end of this patio right here, just looking out over the view. And I think the boat is like right about here. And then there's some plastic, maybe down a little bit because that's a slope. There's some plastic chairs in it and everything. So we're looking at some seating over there. There's rocks in here. I think part of, you know, we haven't really talked a lot about what we were doing for seating, or like if we were buying picnic tables or we're buying tables with 4 chairs or whatever we're getting. We didn't talk about that really, but looking at just putting it all in here, making it, you know, the table with the umbrella, there's still an umbrella stand. I think that's sitting over there right now. Not really sure where they had it. So, and then the indoor seating would be in this little area right here, because this part of the building right there, that is going to be your production space. And then this is your service space. So they come in this door, go through the line and out the door. So we want them out into, you know, kind of in that circular process of back out and back to their cars.
Can you show where the overflow parking exists now? And it's, and your application, as I explained in the introduction, they've offered to regrade that area to make it, to improve its functionality. So right now that, in the approved site plan, the one that is existing now that someone could use right now, that allows for 20 parking spots. And then there are 7 parking spots in the front.
Yeah, so obviously, our employees, they will park over here. Right now, just with all the heavy rain events we've had and everything, this driveway right here is really washed out. So when we're driving our trucks, you're driving a truck, pickup truck, you don't really worry about it. I've got my car today. I wouldn't want to go park there right now. So we're just going to regrade in here. Obviously, our employees will park in there first, but that'll be parking. And then the 7 spots Jennifer mentioned are right here in front, with the one closest being the accessible spot.
There will be no changes to the driveway, correct?
Yeah, no changes to the driveway. We're going to work with the existing permit on that.
Okay. And
The drive on the other side of the barn, what's that used for?
So the original permit has this driveway as farm equipment. I don't know that it's wide enough for farm equipment now, or if you were haying. So like these are our hay fields. Like if you look in the back, this is, oh, I am going to hit something. So this is part of 483, but if you go back here, this is Mountain Dairy. So if for some reason we couldn't go over the top of the hill and we were leasing this property, I mean, I guess technically we could pull our trucks in that way, but
But it really isn't used.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, so technically that looks like you could drive on it. I wouldn't drive on it, and we're not going to allow cars down there, so.
Okay, that was helpful to see that. Yeah. Okay. Is there any other reason to keep this public hearing open?
Yeah.
Okay, if not, someone can make a motion to close it.
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, moved by DeVivo,
Second by Corsi.
second by Corsi. All in favor? Raise your hand. Okay. Unanimous? Craig? Yes, okay. Okay, so the public hearing is closed at 7:40. Okay. Now we move on to old business, which would be the application of Stacy Stearns for a modification to approve special use permit on property owned by JDT Enterprises at 483 Browns Road. So this is where we get a chance to discuss the merits and what changes, if any, we would make. I think it's important to remember that this property already has a permit that goes with the land. So what we're really looking at today are the changes to that permit, which it already has. And the changes include the hours. Help me, Jennifer, with the changes. So hours, parking.
Hours, pickup, an
Pickup
additional
window.
just a pickup window, no new window, but just a
Yeah.
pickup window, and staff memo is
Change out in lighting.
Change of lighting,
lighting improvements, and then outdoor seating is,
outdoor seating, yeah.
it's the hours and the outdoor seating that I think
Right.
we heard concerns about.
But they have shown a willingness to change the visual aspect with the neighbors. So perhaps that's something we could discuss. We could discuss the hours.
So I think my biggest concern is the direct impact to the neighbors. And so thinking about how to protect their privacy. So Did both of you go on the field trip?
Yeah.
It was raining though, so we weren't able to walk outside.
Okay. Would it be an appropriate place to put a privacy fence, at least during the part of it that where the outdoor seating would have? I know you're opposed to fences, but
Certainly it would be appropriate to put more trees, perhaps a fence and a tree, trees and a fence to,
It could, if the fencing could delineate, it doesn't have to be a fence, but it could just sort of delineate the area and so that people understand where they should go and where they should not go.
and then with some trees in front of it, or I don't know, I wasn't there. It just feels like some sort of a better barrier with the neighbors is essential.
and I think as Jennifer mentioned, we could approve it tonight and have them come back to sort out the details of exactly.
You can
how-
delegate it to staff.
Yeah.
Or, and with the sign off from, I think a sign off from the chair, but definitely you could delegate it, to have us look at it. Or you can have the commission approve a revised landscaping buffer plan.
I think it might be, so the farm road that you pointed out, I think a gate there might help. I think making it extremely clear to the public that there really is nothing for them on that side of the property. So if there was some sort of a blockade, it would make it very clear to those pulling in that there was no where for them to go on that side of the property. And it really, we could work with the applicant to do signage to direct, right? Directional signage to direct all the people away from the residential property.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. A gate on that farm lane. And then landscaping, and we could delegate the landscaping and fence details to staff if we would. Are you comfortable with the hours? Bino, you had an opinion on the hours.
Yeah, I think 8 is good
Okay,
because all the other ice cream places are not in residential areas. I'm talking only about Mansfield.
okay,
I agree with 8.
okay.
If
That late an
someone's
hour,
talking, we can't hear.
Yeah, press the button.
I did.
Okay, good.
I'm getting better at it.
Jim's getting wound up. He's going to speak soon.
I have a concern with the winter hours being that late.
Uh-huh.
To me, it doesn't, if somebody can't make a decision that they're gonna go out and either buy ice cream or bulk ice cream by 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night, I mean, I think cutting the hours in the winter season would be very reasonable.
And I think
Summer
that,
season is definitely going to
Yeah.
be a lot busier.
I think
There's no
that's their intention too, but we could specify winter hours if we wanted to.
You can specify hours by days of the week for, you could do Friday through Sunday, X hours to X hours, Monday through Thursday, X hours, May through October, and then, or May through September, whatever, and then October through April.
Right, I remember
hours.
we did that with the wine place that we never got
Oh,
at the Mansfield Holiday Inn.
mhm.
Okay, so now we got another layer of complexity here.
The other thing you can do is we have prepared a motion for you this evening, but there has been a lot of public comment. And so you may want to take a minute and then poll the commission and have someone volunteer to write an approval motion and someone to volunteer to write a denial motion like you have done in past applications. And that way you're not writing it on the fly.
That's a good idea. Yeah, we often do that. have someone write it for the next meeting. Yeah. As long as we're discussing this though, any other comments on the hours? Bino, you want to do some days of the week and hours and seasons? Not on the fly though. Okay.
No, I had one more comment about the seating. I thought I heard something about, the staff memo says outdoor seating for 20 customers, but I believe the request has been increased to 30 customers.
That's correct.
I feel that 20 customers is good.
Mhm. Okay.
20 plus 15 is 35.
Right,
Going
because
to
it's
30
15
would make
inside.
it much larger scale and then,
Yeah.
attract more people. And that will kind of exacerbate the residential impact.
Mhm. Okay. Any other comments on, yeah, Jim?
Getting a variety of hours during the weekends and the days just makes things, I think, more complicated than it needs to be.
We're good at that. We're from the government. We're here to help you.
Sorry.
I have to agree with that. We need to be, if you're trying to support the business or whatever, we should try to help them in certain ways. Having different times for different days may be confusing, but if it's like weekend hour or weekend timing, weekdays timing, that may be okay, but
Okay.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday having different times, that's confusing. Can have winter hours, summer hours, that's fine. Just my opinion.
And that's a long drive down that street to end up coming up to a closed sign if you go. So I think if we have consistent hours and the public knows it, then they won't be wasting gas, driving 3 miles down Browns Road and see it closed. It'll be open when they're there.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Walters has his hand up.
Yes, yes. Josh?
Thanks. And sorry, I'm still learning voices, so I don't know who said this, but I agree. My primary concern would be the division between the residential property next door. I probably have a little bit less concern around the hours, but I guess I just had a question. And I think Commissioner Chandy had asked a version of this before, but if we were to grant conditions around like to 9 o'clock as requested, is there a mechanism where at some future time we could revisit that, or someone could challenge it and say, hey, this is way worse than anyone imagined. Can we please reconsider this? I guess just a little clarity around that might be helpful for me, for my thinking.
We could get some clarity for you on that. I don't have the clarity right now.
Thank you.
So, any other comments on this? I think maybe a good, if someone would like to work on, should I take a straw poll? Or should I just ask for volunteers?
Well, the choices are either you put forth a motion tonight with it sounds like there are definite tweaks to the motion that staff prepared. Or someone volunteers to write an approval motion and denial motion. You may not get a volunteer for both.
Right, okay. So is there a volunteer who would like to write an approval motion? Bino, you've been talking a lot. Maybe this is this is your chance.
We do it before you went away.
Yeah, I may not be there at the next meeting, so that's why.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it should be someone who's going to be here the next meeting. Sarah? Okay. So we got a volunteer for it. Would anyone like to write a denial motion? Okay, so we have Sarah writing it, and of course, we can debate the approval motion when that comes up. So we'll do that, and we will consider it at our next meeting. Okay, on to the Northwest Mansfield Vision and Strategy Plan. You will remember that we had a public hearing on this. We sent it to the town council. They put their stamp of approval on it, sent it back to us. And so it'd be our turn to approve it ourselves. Seems like we're approving it twice, but
Yeah, but you're now this, you had the public hearing. I think it was important for, the council to have an opportunity to consider it and endorse it or make some changes if they felt, and they've endorsed it. So now you can put your official stamp on this either way.
okay. Who would like to read the official stamp? It's on the back. Old business B.
There we go. Which moves to adopt the May 2025 Northwest Vision and Strategy Plan with the addition of a graphic in Chapter 7 comparing the 2015 and 2025 future land use maps to clarify the recommended modifications. Further, move to incorporate the recommendations from this plan into the 2025 Plan of Conservation and Development.
Moved by Woods,
Second by Corsi.
okay. Second by Corsi. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, passes unanimously. We finally finished that piece.
One down, one to
One
go.
down, one to go. Okay, finally, we just have to receive an application. Do we have to do this every year?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Until
That's our
you
own
change your regulation. Yes, you do.
Okay. Put that on the list of things.
This could have been a one meeting receipt and approve after, presentation was done. However, the previous special permit required some water testing and we are waiting on those. And so
Okay.
by the 16th, we should have them and then you'll be ready to
Okay.
rock
good.
and roll.
Okay, receipt motion. This is an easy one. Short one. Jim, why don't you try? Yes. Mhm.
But make sure your light's on and you're
Lights on.
speaking into the. Yeah, speak into it.
Need a buzzer on my wrist, somebody can buzz me. Move to receive the application of Stephen Banis for a special permit renewal for earth excavation at Pleasant Valley Road, Assessor's Parcel ID number 26.88.84.
Moved by Hadrinsky. Do I hear a second?
Second by
by-
Corsi.
By Katie Fertoni. Any discussion? All in favor? Raise your hand. Okay, that is approved unanimously. And we are adjourned at 7:55.